Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Rio 2. I'm kind of going a little bit too fast, getting too familiar with that opening phrase. But today we have Rio 2. This is from 2014. It's an hour and 49 minutes long, and it is a 20th Century Fox acquisition when Disney bought that studio. And yeah, this is, of course, a sequel to Rio. It takes place in Rio de Janeiro. It tells the story of a bird named Blue, voiced by Jesse Eisenberg. Now, that first film, if you want to watch it, well, you can't watch it on Disney Plus. I think it might have been on here at one point, but it's since gone away. I know there's some sort of contracts that bring things in and out on different streaming services, so there's probably another streaming service out there. You might be able to watch it on Hulu. No. If it was on Hulu, it would have come up when I searched for this. It would have, because the searches are not specific to Disney Plus or Hulu. So yeah, it's going to be for some reason, for now, only Rio 2 is on here. So if you're unfamiliar with the characters and the scenarios from the last film, they're not need to know. You'll be pretty well familiarized with the characters and their situation early in the film. And there are solid references to the first film regarding a bad guy that returns. Spoiler. I want to say that, by the way, I really enjoyed the film, but it's not surprising in a whole lot of ways, at least in its main arc when it comes to Blue himself. You kind of know where it's going to go. Once you know where it's heading, you know how it's going to end for the most part. And there's actually a number of different A and B, and there might even be a C story here. There's almost like there's almost a stack of villains like throughout this. There's actually 3 different villains at any point in this film. 3 different villain groups, I should say. I'll get to that in a minute, but we done. I'm gonna slow down here. I'm excitable, and apparently my words are not coming out straight. Sorry. So what we get here is it's a family film. It's about a family of birds, and by the way, it's from Blue Sky Studios, the same people who brought us Ice Age and that series, which has since been shut down, I believe, probably due to the acquisition by Disney, which is a shame because they did always put out some pretty solid quality, especially with the Ice Age films. And this is sort of like its temperate opposite. But you can tell there's the same type of humor, the same type of attitude and pacing. And it has the same feel of animation to a certain degree, but it's, where Ice Age is obviously prehistoric and it's cold set for the most part, except for certain films that take place underground in a tropic pocket or whatever. These films, of course, take place solely in the city of Rio de Janeiro and the Amazon itself. If you don't know, I'm going to give you a quick recap from what I can remember based on what I saw in this film. Blue is a bird that was, excuse me, Jesse Eisenberg, raised in captivity by humans, of course, and humans do appear in this film. It's not just like an animal type of thing. It's not just a creature film. He's raised by humans, and he's pretty well pampered, treated well. He's one of the last of his kind. He's an endangered species, and that's why he's kind of kept in captivity, kind of just protected. And he's never known his other birds like him until he comes along, until he comes to the point of meeting a young blue bird named Jewel, voiced by Anne Hathaway. Now, the first film is the story of their meeting and their romance and them making a family. And in this film, they have 3 kids, and I can't remember their names, but they're all very different. There's a smart girl, there's a troublesome boy. It's just Simpsons almost, but then there's a third one, which I think is another boy as well. I don't know. I can't really tell, but they get into antics, and there's no real story with them in this movie. They are there because you can't just go, oh, we had a movie where they had kids, and now let's forget about the kids. No, what this turns out to be is somewhat of a road trip movie with the family when it's discovered that there may be more birds like them in the wild, in the Amazon. They're Blue's human owners. Again, him being raised as a pet becomes a bit of a contention with certain other birds at some point. Blue's humans, they're researchers. They go out there. They protect and release birds back into the wild after taking care of them, and we see that early in the film. We get to see an example of that in the kindness and the comedy that comes out of doing something like that, and we get to know them as characters early in this film. Turns out that at some point while they're doing that, they discover that just a flash of blue, that oh my gosh, there could be more birds, and that makes the news because of what they discovered. And Blue and Jewel discover by watching TV that oh hey, our humans are they found more like us. Let's go to the Amazon, and so they just pack up as much as birds can do. Of course, he's a bit neurotic. Jesse Eisenberg's Blue. He carries a fanny pack that is appropriately sized, but somehow fits a lot of stuff into it. And some of their other bird friends join along with them, which include these guys right here, voiced by George Lopez, Jamie Foxx, and a few others. There's so many names. This is a stacked cast of really talented people, and you'll recognize the names of the actors the second you hear their voices. It's obvious. Of course, they're going to pick a lot of Latin actors because, again, this takes place in South America. So, and I am sure that there is a really strongly performed Latin American version of this film out there. I did not watch it with the original Latin translation, and obviously a lot of the Latin actors can do the Spanish, although Brazil is Portuguese also. So yeah, forgive me for not being the expert linguist of that region of the world. I know that there's Portuguese and Spanish and other things spoken, but yeah. Anyway, there is so much color. I mean, there's also music. There's musical numbers that are performed, and you'll understand why when you figure out who's in this cast, and I'll get to more of that in a moment. But anyway, in this, as they head to the wild, Jewel makes a discovery. Of course, they do meet up with this other group of birds that are just like them, that are surviving in the wild as the forests are being destroyed. In comes villain number 2. And technically, there's a few villains in a sense within the bird community that they meet that kind of tests Blue in his birdliness. He doesn't measure up because he's so pampered. He's a pet to them. But when it comes to also the destruction of the forest, we are introduced to a guy who likes to suck lollipops, and he's all about just tearing down trees. And he's voiced by Michael Ferrer. And again, if you don't know who Michael Ferrer is, you have seen him in everything. He has done everything, and you'll recognize him in this. And so, yeah, there's a bit of a conflict with the birds. And I know I'm spoiling a lot of stuff here, but honestly, this is just high-level stuff. And you'll have to watch it to fully appreciate this. You'll see that there's a whole lot more to this than what I'm describing. But again, you understand that when Blue, being our main character, enters into this wild place that he is not used to, he is a fish out of water in this situation. He's challenged to be more like the regular birds would be, not so pampered. And Jewel, his wife, partner, fits right in, and the kids are adapting pretty well as well. the only one is Blue, who just can't seem to get it. He's very awkward. And even those birds have also have other bird enemies, which is another villain character to a certain degree that makes an appearance. But the other main villain, other than the deforestation humans, who become the enemies of the humans that are Blue's humans, to give them somebody to battle against, our main, what I see as the main villain, although he kind of seems to come in and out of the story every so often, is the return of Nigel. And Nigel was the one who was, I think he was supposedly killed at the end of the last film, but he wasn't. He's back. And he's voiced by Jermaine Clement. You know him from What We Do in the Shadows, the film. And why can't I say his name? Why can't I say the name of the series? It's going to... Flight of the Conchords. I knew it was bird related. Flight of the Conchords. Oh, that's a really good casting. You get one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords to play a cockatoo. And he's very Sideshow Bob, in the sense that he's very erudite, and he's an actor and a singer, and you know him also as the crab in Moana. If you don't know the name, he's shiny. Well, he has a big musical number. And oh, by the way, since I said he's like Sideshow Bob, at one point he has to give a false name, and he calls himself Bob the Bird. Yeah. But yeah, no, if you recognize him from Shiny in the Moana animated film, well, then he'll appreciate him in this, because he gets at least one big musical number, maybe two. I can't remember how many, but they're big. And he's accompanied by Kristen Chenoweth, which a lot of people know from the original run of Wicked on Broadway, and also like Pushing Daisies and so many other things. And she's got a voice that will knock your socks off. She's got a range that is incredible. But she's a poisonous tree frog. Yeah, who is in love with Nigel the cockatoo. And she will do anything for him. She's obsessed with him. She can't touch him. Nobody can touch her because she's a poisonous tree frog. And then there's also an anteater, and I've already forgot his name, unfortunately, and he's one of my favorite characters because he's all visual. He has no voice, but he is visual comedy every time he's on screen, and he's fantastic. He is, I want to say Charlie Chaplin because there's a literal Charlie Chaplin reference in this film, so involving him. So yeah, I've named a number of people off. Andy Garcia appears in this. Bruno Mars performs and plays a character in this. Janelle Monáe. Let's see. It is. I know I'm blanking right now. I'm going through the list, and it's really exciting for you to watch this. will.i.am shows up in this. I said George Lopez, Leslie Mann, Kate McCucci, Rita Moreno. I mean, there's so many voices and characters in this, and it moves at a rapid pace. It doesn't really ever slow down. It moves from, the main hero struggle and villain. Sometimes I almost wanted to watch a movie just with Nigel and the anteater and the tree frog. Why can't I say the tree frog's name? Come on, tree frog. I think it's Gabby. Yeah, because she doesn't shut up either. So, yeah. So this is absolutely fun. There's nothing like inappropriate for kids. I know that sometimes you get animated films and there's always some sort of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of joke that is for the parents out there to go, well, that was kind of racy. I'm interested now. But yeah, I don't think there's any of that in here. So it's something that I think would go well Between the music, it would go well for adults and kids. It doesn't talk down to anybody. But again, it's not like it's going to be drawing any Academy Awards. Again, it's 10 years old, but it's not like it's going to be, and maybe it did get some Academy Awards. I don't know. Because it looks fantastic. It looks really good. Again, it's 10 years old, but still, for its time, I think, and it's not being Disney and the Disney budget, and it's a sequel to a major, I think, a film that did really well. This film, it looks beautiful. It's just the movement of the characters, because you have to understand that, yeah, there's a lot of scenes where the birds are just standing there talking to each other, but a lot of the action, a lot of the movement in this, unlike, what they did with Ice Age, a lot of the action has to be flying. There are moments where conversations are happening where the birds have to be in constant motion, and it's visually interesting to take all this in while the story is literally also moving. So it's not just a lot of static. Hi, how are you? I am good. It's not. So it feels like it's constantly moving, and there's always an opportunity for humor. And their friends who come along are trying to cast people for carnival people. I want to say other animals to perform in their carnival performance, and they take this all the way went to the Amazon as well, and they get a bigger, because nothing's working out in Rio. When they come along, they start trying to cast different animals throughout the jungle. And there's a whole sequence that it has nothing to do with the main story. It's just meant to say, what kind of funny stuff can we do with capybaras? Yeah, capybaras, a little tiny capybara. And there's just a number of different animals and birds and turtles and, all sorts of different animals all at the same time. What would they sound like if they performed in concert? And or tried out to perform different ways. So, and this, of course, that also brings in Nigel, because he's a performer. So I know I've told you way too much about this and I talked way too long about it, but I think this is the kind of thing that surprised me that I liked it as much as I did, because normally you get sequels to animated films that do really well. They just sort of crap it out, and it's a lower budget, or it's just the animation usually isn't as good. I don't think this is the kind of film that went direct to video. It was in theaters, so yeah, because it's rated G. It's not like an R or whatever, not rated. So yeah, it's the kind of thing where they spent money on it and it looks good, and yeah, I think you'd have a good time with this. This is the kind of thing you could put on, and you can put it in the background and still get drawn into it 5 times in. Again, the music will keep things energetic and fun, and you might find Jesse Eisenberg's Blue to be a little bit too nebbish and just too neurotic and awkward at times, but that's his charm. And does he overcome it? I don't know. Does he? Does he prove himself? I don't know. Does he? And there's a moment in this where I thought, man, because again, most of the cast are birds, but it gets very Hitchcockian at the end. And you can pretty much tell from what I just said what Hitchcock film I'm referring to. But what if that Hitchcock film was a comedy? Yeah. So on all of that, I just say, if you need another animated film that takes place in South America that's not Encanto, here you go. You can do this a double feature. Honestly, I don't know how many Rio films there are, but there's only number 2 on Disney Plus right now. If they felt like it, you could do a double feature between this and Encanto and just have a whole South American experience right there for the whole family. Go for it. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. 67. 67. Oh, I've got the pipes. Oh my gosh. I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's been added to Disney Plus for a while. And there was a time where I had to do a number of different, I had a window in which to do a number of these things. And this one got cut from the list. just for space, because I didn't want to do more than like 4 days or a week or whatever. You'll understand, but it's one of the last few things in this galaxy that I have not watched on Disney Plus. I watched this as a kid, but I don't think I've watched all of it. I think I was too much of a cool teenager. That didn't happen. I was just probably too grown up to be watching Saturday morning cartoons featuring droids. Yeah. So, yes, Star Wars, droids. I am finally going to dig back into that, and I have a feeling that even if it's awful, like, you build it up in your head that, you know, my gosh, everything Star Wars is good, right? Except for the holiday special. But that's also good in the worst possible ways and bad in the best possible ways. But Droids is official, it's animated, it features R2-D2 and C-3PO in all their animated glory, and a lot of Ewoks, I think, that ended up being made into action figures that are the most rare and expensive, including some that were only available, or one specifically that was only available in Brazil. Yeah, that's a little trivia for you that I should be talking about tomorrow. Droids in the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.